Okay, so last week we were in Siman Ayin Hey 75 in Shulchan Aruch. Today we want to learn also Ayin Hey and also Ayin Vav. And that maybe we should have started last week with a pasuk. There's a group of army soldiers in the army going to conquer the land, to save Jews from the land. And soldiers need to make sure that they keep themselves holy and purified, and even when they go to battle. And the pasuk says, "Ki Hashem Elokecha mithalech bekerev machanecha." Hashem, your God, is like dwelling or walking inside your camp, le'atzlicha, to save you, ve'latet oivecha lefanecha, and to give the enemies that will fall in front of you. Ve'haya machanecha kadosh, and your camp should be holy. Ve'lo yira'eh becha ervat avar, and ervat, we explain it as intimate parts of the body shouldn't be seen, and then Hashem will return, chas v'chel, return back. So we have
excretion.
So that's talking also about going to the restroom, right? And covering what you do.
That's what the pasuk is.
Right, so that's a pasuk around it. But we also have here the idea of a lo yira'eh, shouldn't be seen, shouldn't see ervat avar, which is unclean part or intimate parts of the body. So we have here two topics in the pasuk. Good evening. Two topics in the pasuk. One is about seeing parts of the body that should be covered, and one is that the camp should be holy. And when the thing which go to the restroom, we should cover ourselves afterwards. Okay, that's great. Okay, and that brings us to the topic. So we're continuing the idea of tzniut. We won't go into all of it, as we said, but when a man sees parts of a woman that they're covered, so she shouldn't recite Kriyat Shema, shouldn't daven in front of it. We mentioned that last week. There's an interesting question. At the Brit, we say two blessings at the Brit, or three blessings at the Brit, right? Or more actually. Asher Kiddush Atid in Beten, Le'achis Avivito Shel Avraham Avinu, and Shechianu. And the baby isn't covered. So then he says, okay, so how do you do?
Like the Jew before you get to.
But first, there's no difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. In the end, it's something which bothers the mind. So there's no difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. Two explanations. Okay. So, says the Shulchan Aruch, first, in the aspect of reading Kriyat Shema, there's no difference between in front of a non-tznius, non-modest Jew or non-Jew. Non-modest person is a non-modest person. So you can't recite Kriyat Shema in front of a non-modest Jew or non-Jew. So how do we say the brachot of Brit? We had a Brit here just this Shabbos, right?
People who are not in Jew distance.
Right, but what about the mohel who's just standing there with a knife? Okay. So two answers. First says the Rama. Some say that a small child, he's not old enough even to have relations with he's told it's not considered an erva. There's no problem with it. That's about a small child, obviously a baby. There's also an interesting answer about the baby of the Brit, since he's so young, and also now they're doing a mitzvah, for that it's not considered erva. No one thinks about, 1 second, is it modest, not modest? They're doing here a mitzvah, the mind doesn't get disturbed by that, so you can say the bracha. As we mentioned last week, and that brings us to the next topic, if there's something which is non-modest, unmodest thing, even if it's covered with the glass, but you can see it, so that's a problem. Which means even if it's in a different room, but you can see it, it's a problem. Even if it's like there's a glass door, you can see it, that's a problem. But you can't see it, so it's fine. What do you mean it's not? Let's say what do you mean by know it? How do you know? Yeah.
No, other ladies undressed.
Okay, but it's a matter of seeing. As it says in the pasuk, "V'lo yira'eh becha ervat avar," and that brings. Yeah, but it's a matter of seeing. Okay, so as the pasuk said, "V'lo yira'eh becha ervat avar," you shouldn't see intimate parts of the body. Okay, "V'lo yira'eh becha ervat avar." So it depends on seeing, which means even if it's in a different room, but you can see it, even if there's a whole wall, you can't hear anything, you can't, but you can, it's a glass, a thick glass, but it's a glass, that's a problem.
That would also be like
yeah, but knowing it's not in front of you. That, you know, everyone in the world, there's people getting dressed around the world. So now I know that in China there's someone getting dressed. How will it affect me? I won't be able to say Kriyat Shema. It's a matter of how. Yeah, but okay, if it's China is far, it's a matter of when you see it, so you observe it. Okay, the eye is a very important part of the body. Yeah. But right, so the mind is a person to try and clean his mind. Okay, but in the end, seeing is something. Wow, you even just seeing nice things. You see a beautiful picture. Wow, what a picture! Like, yeah, I remember when I went the first time I go to the Grand Canyon. You go up from the car, you walk up, and I say, "Oh," and they say the bracha of Sema Se Bereshit. But I knew 2 minutes ago that I'm going to see something amazing, right? And when you see it, wow, that's something amazing, right? You can see it all of a sudden. When you know it doesn't have the same effect on the mind and on us, right? Okay, so that's. But here we're talking about being able to see, and here that brings us to the next siman. Okay. All right, the thoughts of the mind, the person should keep clean in any case, but you can still recite Shema if you try to. Here we're talking about in a case you aren't allowed to recite Shema if there's something not clean in front of you. Now we're moving to the next topic, and the next topic is about things which smell bad, or people go to the restroom, right? So, and that could be quite often. Okay, you go camping. Where do you daven when you go camping? Okay, what do you do? Okay, or if you there's a chicken farm, and chicken farm doesn't smell nice. Okay, well, what do you do? Can you ref it? Yeah, okay, that's right. So can you daven next to it? Can you daven next to it? Okay, that brings us to a question. So that's a question of here. And we have here two topics. One is, can I smell? Can't I smell? That we'll leave for probably next week if we get to it. The second topic is, am I now in the same zone? And the fact that the Torah says to us, your camp should be holy. So, and as you mentioned, right, it talks about soldiers going to the restroom, they're cleaning themselves, they cover themselves after they go to the cover what they went to the restroom. So when you shouldn't have in the same room something which is bad. Okay, when you go to the restroom, you shouldn't have in the same room. Now, hopefully in your shul, it doesn't happen so often in a shul, but if you have a child in the house and he has a potty, okay, so you have to make sure the potty is clean before you daven. Sometimes and on Sukkot, so people build the sukkah, and once there's a rabbi in the base, so I don't remember how I got the question, so I can't tell you the details, but a group of soldiers built the sukkah right next to a garbage can, of those big green garbage cans, a huge garbage cans. The sukkah did not smell nice, right? Yotze, that's a good question, but could they say a bracha in the sukkah? Right? Could they say a bracha? They can't, right? And when you're camping out, so how much you need to make sure that your area is clean before when you camp out. So that's the topic we're going to this Siman Ayin Vav 76. And here, just to show the difference between the previous topic and this topic, the Shulchan Aruch starts with, you have tzo'ah. What's the best English word for tzo'ah? Excrement? So, okay. So this is excrement, and it's in the room. It's covered with glass. Okay, it's covered with glass, which means you can see it. Okay, you can see it. Can you recite Kriyat Shema in the room? And the answer is yes. Yes, the answer is yes. So about people who aren't modest, it depends on seeing. Okay, it depends on seeing. An excrement, it depends that the question is that covered or not covered. Let's assume there's no smell coming to you. Okay, so is it covered or not covered? So if it's covered, even if it's covered with glass, so that is it's fine because it's covered and it's like in a separate zone, which we see here about davening in a clean place. So that place needs to be clean, which means there shouldn't be any excrements in the room. What? Even if, but here we're thinking it's covered. It's covered. Okay, there's an aquarium. It's closed. It's sealed. Why is it here? I don't know. Okay, you walk outside. Okay, you walk outside. You don't have stuff on the floor. You have glass windows here, and you can see half a meter from here. You can see. Okay. So no, we'll get to it very soon. So it just shows us this contradiction or the difference, that the contrast, sorry, shows us the difference about non-modest. It depends on being. But excrements, it depends on being in the same zone or smelling. And that brings us here to more practical questions, which we will learn. What happens if you have a kid in school and he has diapers? Okay, that's it. That's a great example. That's a great example. It's covered. It's covered, right? Oh, so smell, that's a problem. Let's if there's no smell, I'm not sure. Let's say there's no smell. Okay, as a parent, there is a smell, but let's say there's no smell. Okay, so it's fine. It's fine. Okay, but why? Because it's covered. He's standing in front of you. There's no smell. So it depends on being in the same area or if it's smell or not smell. Okay, so as I said, we'll get to it in just a moment. Let's before we go to the smell or not the smell, and how much do we have to? We'll start from that. Okay, how much do we have to distance ourselves from excrements? Says the Shulchan Aruch. What? So it needs to be or in a different zone, okay, in a different room. You have to have two things: to be in a different room, or this good enough distance, or that answer that you won't smell. So if you can smell it, you have a problem. Doesn't matter if it's far or not far. If you smell it, you have a problem. Okay, you should leave. Or the kid, the parent that has a kid with a diaper should leave, right? Should leave because otherwise you. So things which have hard smells. Something which has hard smell. Vomit, for example, if it has hard smell, yeah, excrement. If we don't mention here, so a kid until they start eating, so their excrement isn't considered a halacha, something which stinks. And it's actually true if you remember your kids. Until they start eating, the smell, I wouldn't say it's pleasant. It's not pleasant, but it doesn't stink as much, right? It doesn't stink maybe at all. It has a smell, but it doesn't bother to daven. So if you have a small baby in the room and he still doesn't eat, you are fine. If you have a kid who's 1 year old and he has a diaper on, before you say Birkat Hamazon, you need to make sure, check the diaper a second, see that there's no smell, and then you can say Birkat Hamazon or daven or whatever. What happens if one reads in a place where there might be excrements, there might not be excrements? It depends where he is. So if it's a place where if it's a place like a house, usually in a regular house, especially today, the places are clean, and you can say Birkat Hamazon. You don't need to think 1 second, maybe there was a kid here for diaper. You can say Birkat Hamazon. Unless you know otherwise, so you can say Birkat Hamazon in a house, and it's fine. Or daven. And even let's say if you davened, and after you daven, all of a sudden you find out that there's a small kid there, your small grandchild with a diaper, a dirty diaper. So it's fine since you were allowed to daven. and you didn't need to think that maybe there's a dirty diaper there, so it's fine, because in a house, a regular house, you shouldn't don't need to think that there's something dirty there. But if you're in a place where there's quite a good chance of something which stinks there, here the example in Shulchan Aruch is a dump area, a dump store. But if you go, I'm not sure, camping in different places, and I happen to be in a place which isn't so clean, before you daven, you need to make sure that the surroundings is clean before you daven. And if a person davened in a place where he should have checked beforehand that it's clean, and he did not check that it's clean, he needs to recite Shema again. Okay, so if the place is supposed to be clean and it happened to be it's not clean, it's fine. He does not need to recite Shema again. But if from the beginning, from the first place, he should have thought that maybe it's not clean, you have a sukkah, you build a sukkah right next to the garbage can. No, they changed it yesterday, everything's clean. Obviously, next to a garbage can, there might be that's a real question I got. Yeah? Obviously, that might be dirty. So I don't know why they built it there. Because I think about 10 years ago, they just took a sukkah and built it next to the garbage can. It was that they were camping in a range, I think it was, or camping in the range for a whole week. And they slept around the range. I think around the garbage can, there was a few walls. So straight, it's protected. We can sleep next to the garbage can. They didn't think that the garbage can also has other outcomes just besides being filthy. Okay, how much should we distance ourselves from excrements? Okay, and that's the next topic. How much should we distance ourselves from excrements? And we said in the same room, problem. In the same room if it's a problem. Okay, let's say I'm out. Okay, I'm camping out. How much do I need to distance myself? If the excrement is behind me or on my sides, I need to make sure it's 4 amot, approximately 2 meters from where the smell ends. From where the smell ends. So let's say there's a child in the lobby of the shul and I can't smell it, so there's no problem. Okay, I'm fine. Or in the COVID times when there was COVID, there were kids playing outside, right? Kids playing outside, I guess. And among the kids, there's also kids that have diapers. And during COVID, some people lost a smell. So maybe a parent lost a smell. And you don't know if, but difficult, yeah. Well, so staff knows. So you don't smell. And if you don't smell, you at least, so the parents couldn't take the child away. So if it's at least 4 amot from where the smell ends, you are fine. You are fine. If it's in front of you, you need to make sure you can't see it. Okay? If it's exposed. If it's in front of you, you need to make sure you can't see it at all. Okay, if it's exposed. As we mentioned, if it's in a different room, okay, even if you can see it, even if it's in a different room, even if you can see it, but you can't smell it. So that's fine. As we mentioned, not like non-modest people, which depends on yera'eh, on seeing, okay, in stinking things. It doesn't depend on the seeing, it depends on being in the same zone, and if you can smell it. So if you aren't in the same zone, if it's in a different room, and also you can't smell it, so that's fine. So you can daven, and there is no problem. There is no problem. The Shulchan Aruch here brings different examples of different animals, what's considered what has a bad smell, what doesn't have a bad smell, since none of us grows chicken, or none of us have donkeys. We won't go into the details because that's not so relevant for us. Just take the general idea. If it's bad, if it stinks, if it doesn't smell good, you can't daven next to it, and you need to make sure you have 4 amot from it. Oh, passing gas, you have to, that's exactly the next stage. That's a great question. Passing gas, we have a difference between davening and learning. Davening and learning. And there's also a difference between if a person passes gas or if other people passes gas. If a person passes gas, he needs to wait until he can't smell anymore, and then he can continue davening. He can continue also learning. Okay, when he himself passes gas, because he's less clean. if a friend passed gas, so we have a difference between learning Torah and davening. And we saw this difference again. We saw Masechet Brachot, we saw it about other things too. We gave a proof from Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, which tomorrow will be Lag BaOmer, so it's some kind of connected to Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. Learning Torah, if a friend passes gas, you can continue learning Torah. Otherwise, you have to stop all the time. On learning Torah, we aren't standing in front of a king. So the level of cleanliness that we need is a bit less than davening. But when davening, we are standing in front of a king. And for a few moments, at least in Shmona Esrei, you need to make sure that all of your surroundings is clean. So if a friend passes gas, pause for a moment, a few moments, wait until the smell goes away, and then you can continue davening. What happens if someone isn't feeling well? If someone isn't feeling well, and he can't keep himself clean enough that he won't pass gas. Also, for that, I had a question once. I'm not sure what the question exactly was, the details, but I think someone had the stomach virus, and he had a question about putting on tefillin. When we put on tefillin, we need to make sure that the body is clean. Okay, and clean includes also not passing gas. One of the reasons that we don't wear tefillin today the whole day, I guess our culture has changed, the way we eat has changed, our health has changed. And in the past, they really used to be careful and were able to keep the body clean and the mind set on the tefillin, and they could wear tefillin the whole day. But today we aren't so much as the past. We can't keep our body clean as the past, and therefore we don't wear tefillin the whole day. We wear tefillin only during Shachrit. What happens if a person knows that he's really having stomach issues, and he knows that he can't even keep himself clean for saying Shema and davening? So what's better? That he will wait until he feels better, wait for half a day, the time of Shema will pass, the time of davening will pass, but at least he'll put on tefillin with a clean body, or that he'll put on tefillin and he will won't have a clean body. Says the Shulchan Aruch, keep having tefillin with a clean body is more important. So if a person here really has bad stomach issues, he should wait not daven Shachrit, don't say Kriyat Shema, at least not with tefillin, and wait until Mincha, and then put in tefillin. If he can daven Shachrit earlier, great, but if he can't, so he was Anus, and he'll just daven Mincha twice. But it's very important to keep the body clean. Says the Shulchan Aruch, if he thinks that he can have the tefillin on for himself for, let's say, 5 minutes, and then he'll be fine. So between the blessings of Shema, between Birkat Ahava and Shema, so just before he gets to Shema, he'll put on tefillin, says the Rama, say the blessing, and recite Shema with the tefillin on him, and say Shmona Esrei. And if he needs to, he will take the tefillin off beforehand. So you can see here how important it is to keep the body clean while we daven. Okay, we have 2 or 3 minutes, so we'll get to the halacha only a bit. A very common question. Can you daven in front of a restroom? Okay, can you daven facing a restroom? So I'm not sure if we'll finish it. Maybe that will keep... The door's closed. Let's say the door's open or closed. Okay, open or closed. Let's leave that for next week. Let's leave that for next week. You can see the time is getting a bit short. Dog excrement. Okay, so we skipped the Shulchan Aruch brings here all sorts of different animals. What's the problem? What's not a problem? It's in Siman Ayin Tet. Okay, it's my Ayin Tet. In Seifim Daled and Hey and Vav and Zain. Dog excrement, unless there's something special, it's usually doesn't stink so much, and you can daven in front of it. Okay, yeah, in front of it. Yeah. Okay, that's about dog excrement. What about if it's excrement which is so dry? And that could be very, very often dry. The excrement is dry. So we don't meet it so much, but as a soldier, we met it a lot. And it used to be a place where always that used to be the place where you used to camp out. It used to be close to the firing or areas. And after so many years of using it, so obviously many soldiers went there to the restroom. But it was desert. So after the day, after a few days, everything is dry already. So if you were there the first time in a week, can you daven in such a place? You know, many soldiers use it as a bathroom. And since the Shulchan Aruch, if it's so dry that it will already, you can start to fall into pieces, that's already dry, it's considered it's fine, you can daven in front of it. And it's, for us, I think it's less common, but as a soldier, it's quite a common halacha, And water, urine, that's the last halacha we learn for today. If it's already absorbed in the ground, and assuming it doesn't have a strong smell, because usually it doesn't have a strong smell, so if it's absorbed in the ground, even if it's the area that is still a tiny bit wet, but it's absorbed in the ground, so you can daven in front of it. You know, only you can daven in front of it. Even if you can still see it's wet there. Okay, you can still see the mark of red, but you can daven there, and that also isn't so common to us. It's more common for soldiers. We'll just conclude with the idea that how much the Torah tells that when we daven, we are standing in front of a king, and not just our mind should be in front of the king. All of our body should be standing in front of a king. Our smell, our eyes, all of our limbs should be feeling as if we're standing in front of a king, and therefore we need to make sure that everything around us is something clean because we're standing in front of a king. And next week, B'ezrat Hashem, we'll learn about davening next to a restroom, which is quite common. You go outside, you have those, or even here in a shul. That's what we'll learn next week.